Hello, Tabitha. Right, welcome to Stripey White. Today we are making our game pie filling for Boxing Day. We're being absolutely, thoroughly, disgustingly organised this year because today is the 27th of November, I think. And what we're going to do is make a slow-cooked game pie filling, which we will then, on Christmas Eve, so you'll have to wait, make into a pie ready for Boxing Day. Because we kind of think Boxing Day needs some fresh food, right? You've kind of had your turkey, your chicken, your duck, your beef, whatever you're having. And Boxing Day is kind of that leftover day. So what we're going to do is make a really nice pie. So what we've bought is some beautiful game meat. We've got a lovely grouse just here. That'll be the cats having a fight. That's the other game meat that we've got for Christmas apparently. Lovely grouse just here. We've got boar, wild boar, and we've got a mixture of rabbit, pheasant and venison. Altogether this comes to just about a kilo, just actually over a kilo of meat, because once this grouse has been boned out it'll come down to about a kilo of meat. We've then got the classic things for making a stew with, right? We've got a mirepoix. For those of you who don't know what a mirepoix is, it's onion, celery and carrot. Generally speaking, you have twice as much onion as you do either celery or carrot, but it's not an exact science. We've got our famous friend the bay leaf. These ones are fresh from my mum's garden. We've got a nice clove of garlic there. We've got everybody's friend in a stew, some bacon lardon. These are exactly the same. These are smoked bacon lardon, exactly the same as the rashers you buy in the shop, only cut into lumps rather than slices. If all you've got is rashers, use rashers. Then we've got some excellent flavourings here. We've got brandy, about 75ml thereabouts. We've got port wine, beautiful flavour. You could use red wine in this recipe if you really wanted to, but what we want to do at the end is taste the game, not the wine or anything else that's going into. So we're using, you'll see quite a lot of very gentle flavours with it. In fact, all of this mirepoix that we've got here will actually not be included in the final pie. It's just there for flavour. And the final thing we've got here, I will offer you up to the camera, is this rather weird looking jelly stuff. Is a homemade chicken stock. About a week ago we had a roast chicken dinner with just a very light amount of spice and seasoning in it. And what I've done there is taken the leftover gravy from that dinner, the chicken carcass, stuck it into our lovely friend over here, the stock pot, and cooked that down for, well, it must have been about 8 hours or so. Strained it off, removed the fat off the top when it's set, and we've got beautiful chicken stock. Again, nice flavour, but not overly commanding, so it's not going to ruin the flavour of this game. So you put beef stock in, all you'll taste is beef, and that's not what we're here for. So, really simple to do. What we're going to do first is brown all meat, stick it in the slow cooker. We'll then cook down the bacon and reduce that down and get all the fat out of it, into which we will then cook our mirepoix, so it's nice and soft, translucent, not trying to put any colour on it. Then we'll put that into the pot. We'll deglaze the pan with the alcohol, probably flambe the brandy, so a bit of flame and excitement. And then we'll finally just add our chicken stock on top, switch it on, and probably give that a good 8 hours in the lowest setting you've got on your stock pot. We only have 2 settings, but it'll be the lowest one. And you know when it's cooked, and we'll give you a video at the end when it's cooked, when the meat is just falling to pieces. So, we'll get our frying pan, get it on a nice high flame, get that nice and hot. We're going to colour the grouse up first, and we're going to do it whole. Grouse is a beautiful, beautiful meat. This is all British meat, by the way, wild meat, so it's not been farmed. It's meat that's run wild all its life, and then it's been shot and delivered up to us. The thing with these meats is very little fat. That's the first thing to remember. With a grouse, they are beautiful, beautiful birds. They taste awesome. However, they are very, very easy to dry out because they've got no little fat, and they also go as tough as your granny's boot leather if you don't cook them properly. You can roast them, you can joint them out and fry the breasts and maybe confit the little duck legs and things, the little grouse legs and things, but actually slow cooking them is brilliant. And we're going to slow cook this one with all the bones in, because that's even more flavour. We're essentially making gravy and stock at the same time there, because all the goodness from the bone and the cartilage, and the skin for that matter, will all come out. But what you always do when you're cooking meat, before you put it into a stew or anything, is seal it, brown it. That adds flavour if nothing else. So what I'm going to do is quickly give all of this a good do of salt. That's all the salt we're going to add to this entire stew until it's cooked and we're ready to use it. Because we don't know how salty our stock is necessarily and how much that's going to give back. We're using bacon, which is very salty as well. And also, we'll probably end up reducing whatever stock we get back from the stew at the end. And of course that just means water comes off but salt stays behind, so it becomes very salty if we're not careful. We're actually going to do a very chefy trick with the stock at some point, which we'll give you in a separate video. which involves clarifying that stock and then reducing it down. So we don't want to get that too salty. So take our bird. We've got a nice hot pan, full whack, full heat. I'm not going to put the extractor fan on so you can actually hear me talk, but if it starts to smoke a bit, put your extractor fan on, because otherwise your home will smell of fried meat. Nothing wrong with that, of course. But so I'm going to put it straight down, and you can hear, hopefully, if our camera is good enough, there's a nice sizzle going on there. Best tool you can buy in your kitchen, other than sort of classic spoons, etc., pair of tongs. For turning meat over in the pan, particularly these small cuts of meat, etc., doing it with a spoon or a fish slice or whatever is a pain, and it tends to roll around the pan and you end up chasing it around the pan. Great thing with these is you can grip it, you can turn it, and your hand is still well away from the fat where it's spitting. Particularly with this meat, it's going to spit. I don't mind if I get fat spits all over my hand and burns, I've already got plenty, but you may object. So what we're going to do here is not cook the meat, remember, which is why we've got it on a really high heat. If you were trying to cook this out, then you'd obviously run it on a much lower heat so it cooks through. Although again, can be served pink, remember. All we're trying to do, however, is seal it and get some colour, in this case on the skin, and maybe get the skin a little bit crispy. When we say colour, sometimes a bit confusing what we mean by that. It's not just when it changes colour, i.e. goes from raw red in the case of beef or game to sort of brown cooked. It's the caramelisation. People worry they're burning things, and they're not. That caramelisation is actually converting some of the meat to sort of sugar, essentially making a caramel on the outside, and that is great flavour. And what happens in a stew is that flavour cooks off the meat, it actually dissolves into the stock, and that is where a huge amount of the flavour comes from. And it's actually this fantastic, because it's sixth taste we've got umami. Is it the sixth one? Fourth, fifth, sixth, something like that. Fifth or sixth flavour that we get on our tongues is umami, which is this wonderful savoury flavour. It naturally tastes savoury, and that's what you're trying to get. So there we go. A little bit of colour, a little bit of dark caramelisation starting to happen on the bottom of the bird. Time to put its breast down. Do each breast individually. I should have said I've got a little bit of vegetable oil in the pan here. Any fat oil you want to use is fine. You can use olive oil if you want. This is just good old-fashioned vegetable oil, groundnut oil, sunflower oil. Pick your choice, it really doesn't matter. What I will say is, if you're going to use something like meat dripping or beef fat or something like that, it will smoke at a lower temperature, so you'll start to get a bit of a burn flavour if you're not careful. And also, it's beef. It's adding in a beef flavour. We're not looking to override the flavour of these wonderful meats that we've got here to make them taste like beef. That's kind of pointless. So while that's doing its thing, it's a little bit slow. These meats we actually bought on the internet. Wonderful thing, the internet. They are all fresh British game, shot in Suffolk. For those of you who know where Suffolk is, it's to the east of London, just below Norfolk. And you can see this is beautiful. I mean, that there is another piece of rabbit. I don't know if that's in focus or not, but if it's not, pretend. You can see rabbit, very, very lean, no fat, but absolutely fantastic flavour. Again, these dry out really, really easily. If you're going to roast a whole rabbit, you need stuffing with something usually in really careful handling. Beautiful piece of meat though, really loving the look of that. We've got all sorts in here. It's difficult to pick out what each individual piece is because I'm not an expert. That to me is pheasant, mostly because it's got a little bit of feather still stuck in it. Don't worry about that, that will cook down. There's some venison in here, that's the dark meat. This is the boar. I mean, look at this. This is the only thing we've got in here that has got some fat on it, not a lot. This is just beautiful. As you see, they're all little slightly different sizes. Look at that. Look at that. Beautiful flavour going to come off that. Marbling in meat is really important. If you ever buy meat and you see it's got these marbles, these little white threads going through it, that's good. That's not bad. People worry it's full of fat and it's a fatty piece of meat. Marbling in the meat is just flavour. It's really, really important. If you buy beef, it always worries me. There are a few cuts of beef where it's not true, but generally speaking in beef you want a marbling of fat going through it. It's all about the flavour. When you cook it down, that fat comes out, don't panic. But it's all about where the flavour comes from. If it's too lean, it will dry out and it won't taste of anything, basically. I'm
just going to close in our
grouse. I've just turned it onto the other breast now. You can probably see the breast I've already done. It's got lovely dark colour on that, really colouring up. I can turn that round. You can see lovely dark colour coming up on that breast. We've still got some raw meat here, that doesn't matter. It's not going to end the world. We're just getting some colour on it. We're not trying to cook it, as I say. We're just sealing it in and building up that colour, getting some crispness on the skin. The great thing with the skin is it gives out collagen and essentially like gelatin, it's what gives a stock, much like our lovely chicken stock that we've got here. I shall slide in front of the camera. The reason that's all wobbly like jelly is it's full of the gelatin and the collagen that come out of the bone and the skin, and that's what gives you the flavour and the really lovely texture and thickness, for want of a better description, which I haven't got to mind. One thing you will notice, which I will say at this point, I've not added any pepper while I'm frying this meat, and I'm not going to. Some people do, and that's great, knock yourself out. Personally, I find pepper goes bitter when you're frying at high heat. It burns, and I don't want that flavour in here. What I'm actually going to do, and I've actually failed to get out of the cupboard, so I'll do it in a minute, is get some whole peppercorns. I'm going to put whole peppercorns into the stock as it's cooking. I'm going to strain it out later anyway, so you're not going to eat them. Get that flavour, but without worrying about it burning. The meat will take on that flavour while it's in the pot, so I'm not going to worry about that. Right, that there is good enough. As I say, you can still see some of the meat is still a little bit raw, a little bit purple. If you're bothered about that, using our favourite friend, the tongs, turn it over, put it down on the hot pan for a second, and you'll see, gone, done, sealed. The inside is still raw, not a lot I can do about that, obviously. I can't fry it from the inside, however hard I try.
It's a beautiful purple colour. That's
a beautiful. Grouse is this wonderful purple meat. What I've done with that is just pop it into our slow cooker. The slow cooker is not currently switched on. I will turn it on once everything's in there. I want this to come up very slowly. We don't want it to suddenly boil. That will be very unpleasant. Right, meat is ready to go in the pan. Most important thing when you're cooking and browning meats is not to crowd the pan. Give it some space. If you crowd it, it will boil. And you don't want boil, you want browning, you want colour. This is all of the game mix. This is the pheasant, rabbit and venison. As you see, we've not cleaned this, we've not gone through the knife and taken all the sinew and things out. We want the sinew. We want the fat. That flavour. It's all going to cook down and go beautifully soft. So don't worry about it. You can see I'm nannying it into the pan piece by piece. That's so that it's not bits stuck together. They're all going to get evenly coloured up. Make some room. So I say we don't want to crowd it. But I can probably get all this game mixed in. I'm not going to put the boar in until this is brown. The smell coming off this, I think you can attest, is absolutely delicious, isn't it? Great flavour, great smell. So we'll let that go. Again, we're not cooking it, although some of these will look pretty cooked through, they're quite thin pieces. We are just colouring it up like that. Look at that, beautiful, that's colour. Not the grey colour that is the meat technically cooking, it's the dark colour of the meat caramelising that we're looking for. All about the flavour. See what I mean with the tongs? I can just pick them up and throw them over, not having to worry about sticking my fingers in to pick the edges up, chasing it around the pan, which is really irritating. I've done it, you've done it, we've all burnt our fingers, not much fun. Tongs, brilliant. There we go. You can see on a really nice high heat this is browning in seconds. I was saying, stock pots, brilliant thing, they're electric. In this case, you put them on, they cook at a really low temperature, it saves you having your oven on. If you haven't got one, or you don't want one, or you haven't got room for one, or you just don't like using them, the oven is fine. Put the oven on, 140, 150, in a nice oven-proof dish, in there, lid on, nice and slow, nice and slow. Lots of options for doing the same thing. I'm just going to turn these last few pieces that have got a little bit of pink left on them, or purple, and then what we're going to do is do the same. Straight out into our stock pot. In fact, if you can take the stock pot centre out, I'm just going to drop all these in. Lovely, lovely flavours. The smell coming off this is wonderful. Let's get those last little pink bits sealed in, and then we'll get into our favourite bit, one of my favourite bits of cooking actually, which is making a mirepoix and cooking it down and getting that wonderful flavour out of it. There we go. Lovely, that's good enough for me. Good enough for you, Mrs. K?
Yep.
Right, next thing, what I'm going to do now is turn this heat down a little bit. It is very fast. I'll show you. We're going at full belt at the moment, and this is our smallest hob, but it's going full belt. What I'm going to do is turn it down, sort of a medium-slow heat, and then I'm going to add this baking tin full of lovely bacon lava. You think there's a lot there? And there is, but it's going to render down, and all that lovely fat is going to come out. And Mrs. K is going to stir that with the smallest spoon that we've got, that one there, just to get it all flat in a level, in a layer. And we're just going to render that the fat and the flavour. Look at that. Filming and stirring all at the same time. Isn't she good? Right, just leave it there. Right, Mrs. K.
Yep.
What's the most important thing when frying anything, meat particularly?
Keep your eye on it.
Yeah. What's the other thing I always tell you off for doing?
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone, right? You'll notice, I'll turn it up just a little bit, it's a little bit too slow. You'll notice when I did the meat, I browned it on each side, I didn't stir it, move it around, irritate it, I left it alone. If you leave it alone, it will brown up and get that lovely colour on it. If you shove it around and push it around with a spoon or constantly irritate it, it won't colour, all the water will come out and you're going to boil the meat and it's going to go tough. Alright, tough meat in this case doesn't really matter because it's going into a stew, but just leave it alone. So what we've got here is our lovely bacon. That's had 3 or 4 minutes. It's cooked. That's probably good enough for me. The fat's starting to come out. So I'll take the nearest thing I have to a sloppy spoon, fish slice in this case, and again we'll just scoop this out. I'm actually going to take this to the stock pot. Careful of the flame I'm leaving burning, obviously. It's important now to use this with a spoon and not just tip it in, because if you don't drain it down, all that lovely fat and flavour that we've worked so hard to get from our bacon and the flavour from our meat will go straight in the pot, and the onion and the carrot and the celery in our mirepoix won't soak it up. What I'm going to do is take the garlic and the bay leaf off this plate. They don't go in just yet, so I'm going to leave those at the side. But everything else for our mirepoix, so that's 2 lovely sliced red onions, a stick of celery, and a lovely carrot. Now what we're trying to do here now is we're not frying, we're just going to sweat this down, saute this down, we're going to soften it. Again, we're not looking to cook it, we're just looking to cook it down, so to sweeten the onions, to let them soak up the lovely flavours that we've had. I'm using that for the lovely flavours that we've had from our fats, and just get all the water off, so we don't end up with too much water from the veg in the stew. So again, we just do that and we leave it to sit and do its thing. Bay leaf comes from Mum Garden, so they grow on a bush. Usually when you pick them, they're like a dark green and sort of like waxy leaf top surface, and that's how you tend to get them in little jars. But you never get them this big. I mean, look at this one, monster. It's like what, good 3 inches. The cool thing with these is they're just so full of flavour. They add a flavour of their own, but they also just lift lots of other flavours up and make them sing. The good thing with these is people often just chuck them straight in the stock, and there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, what's better to do with these, in my opinion, stick them on top of the mirepoix.
Smells good, Mr. K.
Yes, that's what we can smell there is a bit of bay leaf, obviously, we'll put that in. We can smell the bacon actually. Weirdly, the bacon smell is coming through better now that it's been coated all over this and the steam is coming off the vegetables. You can see the onions, the ones that have been near the bottom, are now starting to go kind of translucent. We can see through them. If we get one that isn't as well cooked, you can see the difference. That's what we're looking for in the onion. Everything else will be as cooked as it is by the time it goes in. It's really just getting the onions sweet. In my humble opinion, we are just about done there. Do you agree? Okay?
Yes.
So we've got our onions, look at these, lovely, all looking nice and translucent, looking lovely. So, what we're going to do is go over to our stock pot, and I'm going to go to the stock pot this time and just shoot all of that, fat and everything. Now we want the pan pretty damn clean into there. So yeah, we've not added any thickening agent, we didn't roll the meat in flour, we didn't add anything to the mirepoix. The reason for that is I want a really thin, clear stock, a consommé essentially later on. I'm going to show you how to do one of those really easily at home. If you're eating this as a stew, where you can't bother to go through that step, you could put some flour in, it won't hurt anybody. It's up to you, doesn't really matter. So, the fun bit. I am now going to switch on my cooking hood, otherwise my smoke alarms will go off. So I apologise for the noise. Push. Brandy, you notice I've got it all in a pot, I've not got it in the bottle. If you pour this into a hot pan from the bottle, you risk lighting the bottle up and you've got a Molotov cocktail. Don't do that. So that's lovely brandy. I'm going to pour that into a really hot pan. It's going to sizzle. Get it boiled, give it a second, tip it down towards the flame. Whee! Don't worry, no one's going to take their eyebrows off, it's just going to burn off. If you don't want to do this at home, if you've got an electric hob, you can just drop a match in the side once it's hot. If you don't want to do this, that's perfectly understandable. A lot of people do. This is a quick way of getting rid of the alcohol. If you'd rather do it the slow way and just boil it off, or even...
It smells amazing though.
This adds a real depth of flavour. All we're doing here is deglazing the pan with the brandy, getting all that good flavour off the bottom of the pan, including it in there. If you don't want to flambe it, don't. This is pork. This will not flambe. It's not got high enough alcohol content, and also if you flambe the pork, you will burn the fruit flavour, which we really don't want to do. So, in goes our liquid. All in. Beautiful. That's all we need the pan for now, so we can turn that off. The gas is off. I'm now going to turn the stock pot onto its lowest setting, and the last thing we're going to add is our jelly, otherwise known as our chicken stock. I'm just going to... Lovely, thick, gungy mix of stock we've got there. Really great flavour. That's why I love making homemade stocks. It's very thick, so it will settle down and fill the bottom of the pot in a minute as it starts to warm through. All the vegetables and stuff will warm, so it'll just start to melt in and drop down. And that's it. That's all we're going to do for the next, I don't know, 8-10 hours, something like that. Put the lid on. Forget about it. Right, good morning, Stripy White verse. It really is a white morning out here. We're in Dundee, and it is actually snowing heavily. In the last half an hour, it's decided to put down a good inch or so out there, so that's nice. Christmas has come early, obviously. Excuse me. What I'm going to do this morning is take the pie base that we made yesterday and had in the slow cooker. We left it in there for about 8 hours, so it went on just before 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. We turned it off at about 10 o'clock at night, and we left it in the slow cooker, just let it cool down all by itself. So it's now, what is it now? It's now 10 to 11 in the morning, so it's been there for about 12 hours, just nicely, slowly cooling down. And what we've got is a very large and heavy stock pot full of deliciousness. I'm doing this all by myself today, so I'm sorry if you can't see this, but we have a delicious pot. It's got a beautiful, rich brown colour. I can promise you the flavour in there is amazing. We actually had a little taste. We tried a piece of the rabbit actually last night, and it was really good. So what we're going to do is strain this off. We're then going to pick out the meat that we want to keep and get rid of, as we said yesterday, the mirepoix that we had in there is just sort of it's going to be wasted at this stage. So what we've got here is a nice big bowl, bigger than obviously our stock pot, which is actually still slightly warm, so you can see how well that holds onto its heat. Colander in there as well. So step one is not pouring it on your feet and pouring it into our pot. You can see that stock is very thin, as we predicted, because we've not got any thickening agents in there. Oops. Make a nice sloppy mess everywhere. Well done, Rob. It's alright, wanted that bit of bacon anyway. First thing that's come out on the top, because we put it in the bottom yesterday, is our lovely whole grouse. I'm going to very carefully try and take this little chap out. Now drain down, shake. So, because it's been cooked really slowly, and because it's now really cool, I can actually joint this with my fingers basically. So that's me just take the skin off, the breasts, dead easy. Look at that beautiful meat. It's actually starting to come away in my hands. I can't actually keep it in one piece here, which is fine because you want this to come into little lumps anyway. I'm going to take off the little wings here. That was dead easy. See how well it falls apart, and then we've got the little legs there. Problem with the little legs, they are little legs and there's not a lot on them. So there's a little bit of skin, just take that off. Otherwise we'll just take those two tiny bits of meat you actually get from a leg. Clean. All you want to do when you're clicking through is just not take bits like this dark stuff here. I'm pulling off the top there. That's all part of the joint cartilage and bits and pieces that you don't really want. It's not the best flavour. So there's skin there, just take that bit of skin off. Nice piece of meat, good sized piece of meat. Remember the pieces of boar and things are a good size, so you know, a piece of meat like that's lovely to go into a pie. Bits on board there. I do all this with my hands. You can do it with utensils if you really want, but I think it just makes the job a little bit harder. If you're worried about touching the meat or you're not a big fan of getting your hands dirty, get a pair of rubber gloves on that are clean and do it with that. Or if you're being really posh, you can get those lab style gloves, the white ones and the neoprene ones. But, now to take the breast off this is quite simple again, slow cooked. I just run my thumb down the back of the breastbone here. You can see the breastbone is completely clean, and I've got the breast of grouse off in one piece. Easy. You could actually serve that up if you were doing this as a dish of grouse, and you could just serve the breasts up. You won't have to worry about carving them off, they just come off in your hands. What I'm going to do, again, because we're making a pie, And to prep this a little bit for Christmas when we get there, I'm just going to break this in my hands, and you can see how easy it breaks. It breaks along the grain, obviously, into nice flakes. Absolutely brilliant. And I'll get my impartial tester to come and have a taste. Mrs. Kent, you going to come and taste this?
Yeah.
So this is unseasoned, remember, so it will be a little bit, maybe a little bit bland than we would like. But that's a lovely piece of the grouse breast. Really good.
It's delicious.
And you can see, Mrs. Kent will attest how easy it is just to lift that breast straight away from the breastbone. I've not put any effort into that at all. It's just soft. If you did this,
meaty flavours off that.
if you were to roast this grouse, you'd get great flavour. It would just be a little bit tougher because they're so lean that they just dry out. So you taking the breast off and frying it tends to be a little bit easier. But literally, I've just taken that breast to pieces. I mean, it's breast meat, so it's soft anyway. But I've taken it to pieces completely with my fingers. There you go. That's how soft it is. The breastbone just lifts out. Do you want the wishbone?
Yeah, why not?
I can get hold of it. I'm afraid it's only part of the wishbone. There you go. Alright, wait, make your wish. Come on, come on, come on. You got it. Yeah, you got it. It did break. You got the top bit, so it's your wish.
Yum yum, more meat.
Juice is flicking everywhere. There's not really a lot on the back here. You've got all the ribs and the backbone. There's not a lot of meat worth picking off that. So I'm going to leave that now. I'm happy with that. And that is actually the hardest part, picking the meat for this, because it's just taking the bones out. What I'm going to do now is plunge my hands into the pot and just start lifting out the pieces of meat. We want to be a little bit careful lifting these out. We don't want to break them. They were in a good size when we put them in, as the bay leaf gone nice and brown. So we just want to lift these out gently, and you can see, just take off any bits of carrot and the mirepoix. Don't worry about it too much, but just get them roughly clean. That's a really nice piece of that boar, and you can see I'm going to break one piece, but you can see just falls to pieces. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is going to make a delicious pie. What we're going to do with all of this, once I've finished picking it, is I've got some freezer bags somewhere. We'll bag it up, chuck it in the freezer with the meat just on its own, not in any stock or anything like that. It will freeze down absolutely beautiful. Right, so pick that clean. We've got 90% of the bacon out there. There's a few little wee bits hanging on, but I'm not too worried about that. Just going to hold this at an angle and just let this nicely drain down. You can see underneath we have a very delicious, but very definitely not clarified stock. So I'm just going to pop that over to one side. I really need like a kitchen ditch. You know these programs and you have people who run around after them and clean up after them. Fanny Craddock had a few. And let's be honest, there's probably quite a lot of parallels to be drawn between Fanny Craddock. So what do we get after that lovely process is a bowl of delicious meat pieces. You can see we've got bacon, we've got the boar, the palo on there is the rabbit, we've got all pieces of grouse at the bottom that we picked at the beginning of the video. Gorgeous. And in this we've got the stock. And with that I will say goodbye.